There you go. You can take a screenshot of that one. Hi, everyone. Today we're talking about sentencing factors. Sentencing factors come after you've pled guilty or you've been found guilty. You will go to sentencing, and the judge will look at a range of factors to determine what is the most appropriate sanction for you. So they'll consider a range of factors in order to find a proportionate sentence for you. Okay, the Sentencing Act outlines how they do this. So, Sentencing Act 1991 is a good quote for you to use as well. So, 1991. Okay, so if we look at the study design now, we're very, very close to finishing, which is very exciting. So, you need to know the following factors. Okay, sentencing, aggravating factors, mitigating factors, guilty pleas, and victim impact statements. Okay, so we're going to start with aggravating factors. Okay, an aggravating factor is circumstances in which the offender has actually increased the sentence that they will receive. Okay, so they've actually gone and made their sentence worse by doing a number of different things. This might include the use of violence. So, have they been particularly violent with their crime? Did they not just steal from an old lady, or did they kick her as well and throw her onto the ground? It might be the nature and gravity of the offence. So, what type of offence have you done? Okay, so is it just petty theft, or is it something like murder? So, how serious is the offence at hand? Is it summary or indictable? The judge may consider whether a victim is vulnerable. Okay, so have you done this crime against someone who's young or underage? Have you done this against someone who's got a disability? So, what are the vulnerabilities behind it? The judge may also look at whether you're motivated by hate or prejudice. Okay, so is this a hate crime? Have you targeted a particular person in front of, or a person in the community? Whether or not you've done this in front of a children. Have you kicked an old lady in front of a child? Whether or not you've breached trust by the offender towards the victim. So, for example, a teacher breaching their duty of care while looking after a student. So, whether or not they've done that. And lastly, whether or not you, when you committed the offence, you have been on bail, you're out on parole, or you're in a community corrections order. So, whether or not any of these factors may have occurred. So, taking into these factors, these aggravating factors, will likely increase the sentence you receive. The opposite of that is mitigating factors. So these are circumstances where it might lead to a less severe sentence. Okay, so for example, maybe you show remorse during your trial. Okay, you realize that what you did was wrong or inappropriate, and you showed some sort of remorse. Whether or not it's out of character for you, have you always been a good person and committing a crime is unusual? Whether or not you've acted under duress. Okay, so have you committed a crime because you had to, you were forced to by someone else, okay, or you felt pressured into doing it? Whether or not you've tried to rehabilitate. Have you gone to drug rehabilitation programs? Are you honest? Whether or not you're on some sort of personal strain. Okay, so for example, you've stolen something because you can't actually afford to eat. Or whether or not your background has been particularly difficult. Okay, whether or not there was not really that much harm. Have you just graffitied on the side of a railway and it hasn't really harmed anyone? A factor that might help your mitigation is whether you're young. Okay, for most people under the age of 18, the approach is we need to rehabilitate you. Okay, so there's that expectation that you might be young or you have a disability and we're able to rehabilitate you. And lastly, have you tried to help? Have you been honest and decided to plead guilty early? These can all be factors that will help reduce your sentencing. Other factors that judge takes into consideration, and we just talked about that as a mitigating factor, but a guilty plea. Okay, the earlier your guilty plea is, more likely that it will have an impact on your sentence. Okay, the reason behind that is you're acknowledging that you're saving time, cost, and trauma for other people. It shows that you're aware of your crime and you're aware of the impact it's had. And it can also lead to a pretty heavy discount with the sentence imposed. The last one that a judge may take into consideration is what is known as an victim impact statement. This is usually during sentencing. The court will ask victims to talk about their account of the crime and whether or not it had any impact on them and the circumstances around it. So often a victim will read out what occurred during that crime and what kind of loss they've had. This might include like injury, have they lost a leg, have they lost money or damage, are they suffering from emotional trauma? For example, psychological trauma, do they need to go to counselling? So usually the victim can request that their victim impact statement is also read out loud in court to make it more impactful. But normally the judge will read that and take that into consideration. Okay, so these are all the different things that will help reduce a sentence or increase a sentence. So a quick reminder, aggravating increases the likelihood of a more severe sentence, mitigating decreases it, and then victim impact statements and early guilty pleas may have an impact in terms of mitigation as well. That's it today. Thank you.